17 News is your local election headquarters. Statewide, more than 1 million Californians have already cast their ballots ahead of the June 2nd primary, but the vast majority of registered voters have yet to cast their ballots. 17's Capitol correspondent Eitan Wallace has a breakdown of the early numbers so far.
Printed, sent out, and in your mailbox. The ballots are here, all in an election featuring some of the most consequential races in our state, including the crowded contest for California governor. The top two vote getters in that race will advance to the November general election. Of the 23+ million registered voters statewide, an estimated 1.1 million have already cast their ballot, coming to a roughly 5% voter turnout so far.
So the voter turnout is looking a lot like a gubernatorial primary election, which is generally our lowest turnout election.
Paul Mitchell is vice president of Political Data Inc., a nonpartisan voter ballot tracking service providing us with the latest figures. He notes the statewide turnout so far, as expected, is worse than the 2024 presidential primary election, but he believes the turnout will end up slightly better than California's last gubernatorial primary in 2022. Back then, only about a third of registered voters actually cast a ballot. This time around, Mitchell believes we could see more voters make last-minute decisions as they weigh who they'd like to become our next governor when Gavin Newsom is termed out.
But what we're seeing is a lot of voters, particularly on the Democratic side, who seem to be waiting for the final answer, like which one of these Democrats is really viable, which one can make it into the top two.
Of the ballots that have been cast so far, Mitchell says Republicans are turning out in relatively strong numbers.
The electorate that turns in these ballots early are older, wider, and more conservative. So we actually see Republicans, who are 25% of voters, at almost 40% of the ballots that have been returned.
Meantime, he says, the youngest group of voters has so far seen the weakest turnout.
The seniors are a quarter of the electorate. They are more than half of the ballots that have been returned. They're at around 12% turnout. Young people, those 18 to 34-year-olds, they are really tiny in terms of the relative turnout so far. They're probably around 2.5% turnout.
It all comes after our exclusive Inside California Politics and Emerson College poll last week showed more than 1 in 10 Californians, 12%, say they are still undecided. In terms of all the undecided voters, do you get to a point in a primary, in a governor's race, where they just might not vote at all?
I think it's very likely that an undecided voter might not feel motivated to turn out and vote at all.
And a reminder, you can bring your completed ballot to an official drop-off location like this one, or you can send it back in the mail. But this is key. You must sign and date the back of the return envelope for your vote to count. Reporting in Sacramento, Eitan Wallace, 17 News.